Hello and welcome to our weekly blockchain gaming roundup. It is Friday, the 6th of September. I am Jenny Jordan, and with me today I have John Jordan as usual. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, last sun of the summer, maybe.
No, well, hopefully not. Last a little bit longer. But yeah, it's nice and sunny today. So quite some big news this week, actually. For us anyway. With Zynga's Sugartown being bought out by the creators. It's sort of the same team, core team that was working on it whilst it was under Zynga with the project lead Matt Wolf. They've set up a new company, D20 Labs, which has bought out Sugartown. So still working on it, but it's not under the name of Zynga or the ultimate owner Take-Two anymore. And yeah, I mean, it's not been received sort of positively, really, would you say, from the industry, or?
Yeah. Well, so I guess the sort of people who don't like blockchain games are sort of like Zynga throws in the towel on blockchain games, or blah blah blah. Which fair enough. That's one way of looking at it. I guess I didn't listen to the Spaces. They did a Spaces this week, and for some reason it doesn't appear to be available to listen to the recording of it. But anyway, it seems like people who generally would put themselves in the Sugartown community were sort of a bit sort of neutral about it. So I think there was a general feeling that maybe they weren't sort of dealing with the realities of the market at the moment. There didn't seem to be also any detail about sort of the structure of what effectively is a management buyout. So as you pointed out, Sugartown was sort of incubated within Zynga. Actually started in 2022. The NFTs came out in 2023. They're called Aura, and they sort of been running into early 2024. They were running some late 2023 as well. They were running sort of some tests. So if you had the NFT, you could it's NFT gated. You could go into what effectively is a mini game platform and play some of these games, and you sort of had to stake your NFT, soft stake it, and then you got energy to play the games, and then by playing the games you got on leaderboard and points and stuff. And some of the games were actually old Zynga games. So there was one called I can't remember what it's called, Mountain Goat, Mountaintop Mountain Goat or something. Which is actually quite a nice game. Actually a really old mobile game. So they were obviously going through Zynga's back catalogue. Zynga, one of the biggest mobile game developers, got bought by Take-Two a couple of years ago. But it looked like they were going to have some nice web things, web 3 things, and then use Zynga's back catalogue. But it had gone very slowly. I think in general, these big companies, generally do go slowly. We haven't really seen many of the big public games companies get into blockchain. There's many reasons why that might be the case. Clearly, legal advice around this sort of stuff for public American companies is probably very difficult when people like Uniswap and Coinbase are being investigated by the SEC or various other US agencies. So that doesn't help matters. And obviously, Take-Two is a publicly owned company, whatever it is, can't remember, $23 billion market cap, and obviously it's got GTA 6 coming out next year. Probably the biggest games ever, one of the biggest games ever. So from that point of view, Web3 is just not big enough for them. It's to take the risk. It's just if there's not people in the company committed at a top level, then it's just like whatever. So I guess the good news is Zynga didn't just kill it, because obviously if Zynga really didn't care about it, they would just sort of let everyone go and kill the project. But they've allowed them to buy it out. We don't know how they funded that. Obviously Zynga would want some money. Probably Zynga would maybe want more money if the thing's successful in the long term. But we don't know what VCs, I assume, have funded it, and we don't know how much money they've got for the future. So they've sort of, as you'd expect, the sort of D20 Labs people have been very positive and said now we can sort of go faster, and we've got all this sort of roadmap sort of designed out and planned out, and we can sort of have more games. And they seem to be suggesting now they can sort of do their launch, and maybe the sticking point was they couldn't really sort of market their launch as they wanted to under Zynga, so that's sort of what became the point at which they sort of thought they'd buy themselves out. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think they're not like super, degen Web3 people in there, because they're sort of corporate Zynga people, and corporate Zynga people are just not, in general, are not sort of degen of anything. So I don't think it's going to be one of those sort of Web3 projects that's sort of throwing out loads of tokens and really, doing all the sort of crazy stuff. But that's probably a good thing. But it just means, I think they'll be going at a slower pace. I mean, I've played it. I mean, I think, I'd be, keen to play more of it and see how it goes. And obviously, they think Web3 is a way of sort of, building out a sort of big audience with the community in there. So I guess we'll see how they manage to do that as we get more details.
I guess what you say though is like, from a more positive kind of angle, it is that it can now keep going, it can now keep developing, whereas otherwise it might have just been killed off. So actually this sort of cold reception it's had about like, Zynga leaving Web3 and abandoning whatnot, well, that might have happened, but now Sugartown can actually carry on, and that is a good thing. Presumably they couldn't move on with the Web3 features otherwise, which they can now do, and so that is actually good news for the industry. Let's move on.
I mean, I think some people were sort of saying, well, one of the reasons we liked the project was it had like Zynga's backing. So if you don't have Zynga's backing, then how do you stand out from the crowd of usual things? But I think it's always very easy from the outside to give your sort of 2 cents view on things, whereas obviously internally there's a whole bunch of structure and legal and grown up people having to decide proper stuff. So for me, it's more about sort of what funding they've got really for the future, and it's kind of slightly weird we didn't get more detail on that, but we'll see how they go.
That's right. We have Mysten Labs announcing their actually selling their Play OX1 PC handheld this week. You tried to purchase one, and eventually you confirmed that you got one, but you're not sure whether you managed to be one of the first 1,000 to be eligible for the NFT. I mean, the mint didn't quite go as sort of smoothly as they would have hoped, I think. Or what would you say?
I don't think it was the mint so much. So they've got this thing which they call the Sui Play 0x1, which is a sort of like a Steam Deck, sort of, it's a handheld PC. There's quite a lot of these sort of things coming out now. Steam Deck's obviously the biggest one. That's from Valve, and that runs sort of their Steam OS, and that obviously links into Steam as a distribution platform. I've actually got one of those as well. And to be honest, if games have been designed to work on the Steam Deck, then it's pretty good. If they're just PC games without, because obviously it has doesn't have all the buttons. It has like joypads and various buttons like you would have on a console joypad, and it has a touchscreen. But if the game's not optimized, or even for this Steam Deck, it doesn't work very well, really. So that's sort of one of the problems with these, PC-based handhelds. They work great if the games are optimized for it, but in most cases the games aren't optimized for it, because even the Steam Deck, there's a few million of them out there compared to hundreds of millions of PCs. So unless you're designing a very specific game, then it's sort of very sort of secondary consideration. In terms of, so in general, I think I was quite surprised that Sui is doing this hardware, because I mean, hardware, they're selling it for $600. It was $600. You had to pay in crypto, so you pay in ETH, Sui, or Sol. There's no fiat buying at the moment. It's a pre-order. It's coming out sometime in 2025. We don't know when. You have to pay tax and postage on top of that, so that's going to be a reasonable chunk for most people. Another couple of $100 probably on top of that. The specs are sort of okay. I'm not massively into sort of PC component specs, but it seems to be it's sort of good hardware from 2023. So it's if you just want sort of to play sort of PC games on the go, there's other PC manufacturers do better stuff. So you wouldn't really be buying it for that. So it's very focused on crypto people. As you say, there was this sort of there's a lot of slightly hanging threads on this. So they said the first 1,000 people who buy one of these will get a special NFT that will get you loads of freebies from basically Mysten Labs. And that's sort of similar how it worked on Solana's phone, which is a broad comparison where they sold, hardware that they said is blockchain native. And the Solana phone, you had this soulbound NFT token, and people could airdrop stuff to you. So that if you bought one of those, you actually got double the money back in terms of tokens and stuff. So that's one of the models, anyway. So I bought one on the first day, or within the first day, on Ethereum, and you can see on the transaction went through very smoothly. Obviously, it's just a Ethereum transaction, and you can see the wallet it went to. So if you looked on ETHScan, you can see how many Ethereum transactions had gone into that wallet. It's about sort of 300-ish. I was about 250 on that, so not super early, but fairly early. And then on day one, they said, we've done 1,500 pre-orders. They haven't said how many pre-orders they're going to do. Like, they sort of suggested it's a limited edition run, but they haven't said how many. But the problem was the transaction had gone through on the blockchain, but via the web interface that you bought it through, it just said transaction, transaction ongoing, and you didn't get an email saying this, this order's gone through. So I knew it had gone through on the blockchain. So from that point of view, it was fine. But obviously they had a problem connecting the different blockchains to their back end and then showing it on the web interface. And then a day later, I got an email saying, congratulations, you got your pre-order, your number 1,537 or something rough like that. So there seemed to be a disconnect there in terms of the order number they gave me compared to the number that went through, at least on Ethereum. And there is this uncertainty that originally they said only the first 1,000 people are going to get this super duper NFT. So yeah, there may be people who like me who may end up complaining that, can you double check? Because I think, because the other thing is, it should be easy to do. They just look at all the different blockchains and they can order them in timestamps when things gone through. And maybe loads of people on Sui ordered it. So maybe I am maybe 1,500 and something. But that seemed a bit weird if they said after I'd pre-ordered it that they'd had 1,500 pre-orders and I've been given a higher number. So to be honest, I don't really care. I imagine there's going to be loads of, I don't even think they've manufactured them yet. So I imagine probably the thing won't come out for another year. So I just do it for the sort of fun of the experience. The one thing that is interesting is, more generally, Sui seems to be gearing up now as a blockchain with at least some decent games on it. So previously there was nothing on Sui. It was like a desert for games, and they had one game that then got cancelled. But now they have Society, which is these South Korean guys who I know a little bit, and it's a good game. I played a very early version of it. They know what they're doing, so that's sort of interesting. And some of their blockchain ideas, I think also are interesting. They've got this new game from Animoca Brands Blowfish Studios called Dark Times, which is a physics brawler with supposedly a lot of dark humor and Tarantino sort of violence and stuff. So sort of interesting. I don't know how good the game will be, but it's sort of an interesting take. There was another one as well, isn't there? I can't remember. What was the other one?
Yeah, Double Jump Tokyo's, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
What's it called?
Brave Frontier Versus, yeah. So Japanese developer Double Jump Tokyo is doing a sort of RPG. So and I was actually talking to someone sort of off the record who is doing a game that will probably be on Sui as well. So it seems like Sui is gearing up and putting VC money into game projects that will be exclusive to Sui. And obviously this having a few thousand people with a PC for playing these sort of games, it's not going to really move the needle. Like the Solana phone didn't really move the needle in terms of actually people using it. I mean, it was sort of an interesting thing where you got, you paid originally $1,000 for it, or they put it down to $600, and you got $2,000 worth of value out of it when people dropped you loads of meme coins if you sold them. But my Solana phone just sits in the fabled drawer of unused hardware now. So the point of having this hardware out there is sort of interesting, gives fanboys something to talk about, but you have to have content going on it. But I can imagine, assuming it comes out, I can imagine playing Society on it. I mean, it won't be as good as playing it on a PC, obviously, because for shooters you want mouse and keyboard, not joypads. But it's. If I was Sui, I wouldn't have done it. But as they've done it, I'm sort of happy to at least sort of vaguely support them.
Good. And we've had some news from Faraway this week. Faraway Games, the US-based developer. They've announced quite a lot during 2024 in terms of since acquiring Yuga Labs, Legends of the Mara and HV-MTL IP. They did announce plans that they wanted to integrate these into new games and give them new utility. And now they sort of started announcing some fruit coming off that, which I think it started with this shatter line, like a shooter, which they would integrate the HV-MTL NFTs in that, which is a Web 2 existing game at the moment, but with coming Web 3 features. And then this week, they first announced that they were working on their own game, Rebel Skies. And that's in addition to the other games they're working on. The Mineral Nations, which is live already on Solana. And then, help me out, which is the other one? Serum City, a city builder, which is also kind of live, early stage. And then they got the Dookey Dash Unclogged, which they're working together with Yuga on a mobile game, which actually also announced some news this week that they will launch their tournament later in September with 1 million in prize pool. So anyway, they announced this game, Rebel Skies, and then they also announced, like the day after, that they were working to integrate their HV-MTL NFTs into Bird Letters, South Korean company, into their Villains mobile game, like a casual battle royale game.
Yeah.
And in terms of Rebel Skies, that's an action RTS with kind of deck building elements, which is Jonah Blake that posted quite a long post on Twitter, sort of describing that game. Other than that, there's not been sort of that much details really from coming out of that game. But yeah. Have any comments?
Yeah, it was sort of funny because we started writing about this Rebel Sky game, which they didn't actually really. I couldn't see officially they spoke about it, but they retweeted this guy Jonah Blake, who's sort of one of these sort of influencer types. He did this massive long video about it. It's, I mean, as a game, I don't think it looks. It's sort of very standard mobile, sort of landscape, sort of Clash Royale type, sort of deck building. So the elements you have, the units you put into the game are sort of cards that you level up, and it's sort of like a sort of 2 lanes, and you have a base and you're attacking other people's bases. So we sort of know what that genre is. Quite difficult to scale those games, but then I guess the interesting thing with Faraway, who worked with Yuga very closely for a couple of years now, and also acquired these NFT collections that Yuga sort of wasn't using anymore and hadn't really worked out terribly well. So obviously they've got these 2 NFT collections that are sort of have some sort of brand recognition. I think they're roughly around sort of floor price on them is about $80 or something, so not super expensive for Yuga stuff, but they're very game focused. Didn't really work out. And then they're looking to find I guess that what they're looking to do is trying to find games that they think are good, that have good basic sort of KPIs, that haven't worked out because they can't scale them because marketing costs are too expensive in mobile. And I guess they're thinking, if we can get these NFT collections as an ecosystem and just plug almost like random games into them, then can we start driving sort of network effects and people will start playing people get into these games, maybe we'll gift them some of these NFTs, and then maybe they'll try some of the other games. And I think it's pretty experimental in how they do it, but it's interesting that no one's really tried to do that before. There are sort of people who are trying to build their own ecosystems. I mean, maybe like Joyride Games are an example of that. Although, they do have NFTs now. So maybe there's people trying to do it themselves. But I think effectively, there's loads of games out there that haven't been successful. Loads of Web 2 games out there that are basically going to go bust, that you can probably acquire for like very little money, if any money at all, and then sort of roll them all up. I've actually been playing the Villains game. It's actually sort of very high quality sort of game in terms of a mobile sort of. As you say, it's a casual battle royale game, but actually really fast. There's some mechanics in it I don't like that I think they would probably need to work on. But in terms of like the design of all these villains, basically you have a character who has attributes, and then they have like a vehicle that could be a mech or a bike or something, and you sort of zoom around, and the games happen really quickly, and it's just loads of all the sort of retention mechanics you sort of want in there. Very sort of fully fledged game. And I guess that would work because you can put the heavy metal NFTs are robots, so you can sort of put them in the game as sort of these where they have the robots in already in the game. So it'd be interesting to see how they scale that, but I think pretty experimental. I guess in the short term, the more interesting thing is Dookey Dash Unplugged. So Dookey Dash was Yuga's first sort of game that they did. It was a browser-based game using the sort of the Bored Ape sort of IP. And it was like a Tempest game, so very casual. You're just sort of you're in this nominal toilet and you're collecting things and trying to avoid getting crashing into the obstacles. And that worked pretty well. And someone got like a singular NFT that sold for $1 million back in the day, as the things did. But then they spent the last year and a half working on this mobile version, which is you can get it from app stores now. As you say, the tournament isn't live until the 12th of September, and that's got $1 million prize pool. I imagine in ape tokens and stuff like that rather than $1 million of money, but I'm not sure because the details haven't been released. As a game, I think they could do quite well on it. Actually, it's a very that game was originally on a browser, but it's a mobile. That sort of genre, sort of like an endless runner almost, is very mobile, very touchscreen. I'm terrible at those sort of games. I mean, they're very sort of twitchy, but yeah, they've got the retention in there. You sort of go through and you sort of unlock things, and it's sort of it's not a complex game, but it sort of takes you through what you're doing, and you can see it's very leaderboard, sort of heavy. It's got in-app purchases, and you unlock new characters, and yeah. So
when they the first one, this is like a sequel, isn't it? So the first Dookey Dash, which it's gathered quite a lot of hype, didn't it? Was it early 2023?
I think it was early 2023, yeah. And that the hype there was you sort of needed. I can't quite remember the process. There was some sort of NFT you needed. It was back when people cared about these things, and there was a very complicated thing about how you had sewer passes, didn't you? And you had to, and your high score was attached to the sewer pass, and you could sell the sewer passes gave you multipliers, and there's all this sort of complex stuff about and at one point sewer passes got quite expensive, and I can't remember what I got out of it in the end. I got something out of it. I can't remember.
It was a key. It wasn't a key. Like
no, that was for the number one. The number one guy. There was this pro gamer who was like I can't remember what it was, in his teens or early 20s. Who was like he played Counter-Strike or something. He was a known gamer, and he won this key, and then he sold it to this
that's it. Yeah,
he sold it to this NFT guy who actually transpired was a famous scrap metal dealer in New York who collected these sort of things. It's a sort of funny story. So the first one did quite well in that environment where sort of NFTs and crypto was more bullish than it is now. But obviously what people are looking is how can we think in the space that having blockchain makes these things more valuable and more viral, and it allows developers to give away real rewards that have real value without going through the banking system. So there's a interesting advantage there, but obviously you have to get them into the hands of just normal gamers. And this game is there's no wallet in there at all. There's and I think Faraway Games, their history is making mobile games. They were a game developer who was bought by Glue Mobile, and then Glue Mobile got bought by EA. So they've worked at the highest level of making games that are downloaded by millions of people. They know how to do that sort of stuff. So I'm not saying it's going to be successful, but I'm saying that they would be one of the companies who you wouldn't be surprised if they had a success at that level. I guess the wider thing is taking sort of games that haven't been successful and then putting NFTs in there and trying to drive that. I think that's a harder ask than getting Dookey Dash to be successful.
Good. Now, Dapper Labs is trying to build some interest and hype around their OG project, CryptoKitties, releasing eggs and announcing a game following the mystery of what those eggs would be. But it seems like they would somehow be integrated into this All the Sun, it's called, the game they've launched. You looked into a little bit of that. Can you tell us a bit more, please?
Maybe. It still seems a bit mysterious for me. So the background to this is the Flow blockchain has now become EVM compatible, which basically means that has smart contracts that can connect to Ethereum. So previously, it used a totally different sort of smart contract language. The whole point of Dapper Labs sort of deciding in 2019 that Ethereum was too slow and they needed to do their own blockchain, which to a degree has been proven right, but they've just been much too slow on, no one's doing anything on Flow. At one point they had an advantage there, but now sort of Ethereum-based L2s are where all the action is. So they've sort of come to that conclusion. They've effectively made Flow. It is an L1 blockchain, but it can now work as basically an L2 blockchain for Ethereum. So you can basically run your game logic on Flow and write back to Ethereum as sort of the final security arbiter. So the other thing, obviously, that Dapper Labs has is CryptoKitties as the first big NFT brand on Ethereum. I mean, there's no activity on that at the moment. And we've always been expecting them to sort of reboot it at some point. And obviously they've been waiting until they're EVM compatible to do that. So that happened this week. They launched this Eggs project, which still seems rather mysterious. But somehow some people knew about it. And I think 3,300 of these Egg NFTs have been minted on Ethereum. Not quite clear what they're for. The price got to about 0.3 ETH. It's back down to now 0.14. But on the basis of that, they've launched this in the Zen Telegram game. So they've gone very much down the route of using Telegram to drive this sort of viral game. I've not managed to get it to work. I can't say I tried very hard. I tried it fairly hard earlier in the week. I've not tried recently. But they're obviously trying to just leverage Telegram as a viral mechanic for sort of tapping games. Quite how it feeds into CryptoKitties, which has all these assets already out on Ethereum. I mean, are they going to do a token based on it? Are they going to, I don't know. Still some uncertainty there, and it seems slightly, I don't know. It seems slightly not well thought through. That one of the people from Dapper Labs who launched this egg thing was on Twitter, atting the CEO of OpenSea to get their contracts verified, which is when the thing was live. You kind of thought that's the thing you do before you launch, because the CryptoKitties guys, the Dapper Labs guys, know the OpenSea guys from way back in the day. That was in 2017, 2018. They were the sort of the big mate. I mean, it was CryptoKitties that sort of helped launch OpenSea. So slightly, I don't know how well thought through this stuff is, and in general I think Dapper Labs had this massive start and they've basically squandered it. I don't know, obviously I don't know behind the scenes they were getting potentially investigated by the SEC and loads of kind of weird stuff like that, so easy for me to say, but I'm sort of not quite the wiser on what they're doing with here. But I do think there is a lot of for people who've been in the space, there is a lot of love still for CryptoKitties as one of the key projects that launched the whole NFT. I mean, it launched the ERC 721 standard, and I think that Dapper Labs were ahead of the game in terms of thinking about composability and people using their assets for mini games and stuff like that, and it just never, for various reasons, never panned out. So I don't know whether something can be resurrected from that. I mean, I've still got my CryptoKitties from back in the day. Not that anyone would buy them, but I've never sold any of them. So from that point of view, I'd like to see that come back, and it would also show that the fact you have these assets that are on eternal, inverted commas, blockchains, that means that years later someone can come and sort of resurrect those things or build new experiences around them, and I think that's something we would like to see over time happening. So I hope they do it, but I'm not quite sure.
In a way, kind of, there's a common theme here with what Faraway is doing with Yuga, and I mean these are sort of really early projects, and now trying to revive them. Do you think that is sort of? Do you think that will work, or do you think it's a bit of a dead horse that people are just trying to live off old glory sort of thing?
I mean, I think it has to be the right assets, isn't it? So I mean, whether CryptoKitties ever comes back again, CryptoKitties was the first NFT project that people really got into. I mean, CryptoPunks was technically the first, but it was a different standard, and CryptoKitties was the one that was on Ethereum mainnet and used that standard. So that has a different sort of for people who were around at the time. Yeah, that was where a lot of these projects came about. That's where Axie Infinity came from, the CryptoKitties community. A lot of these people, that's where they came from. My first NFT was CryptoKitties. So the problem with some of the Yuga stuff is, I think Bored Apes will always be there. I don't know what the price will be, but that will always be, that has a certain sort of cachet in the sector. I think the problem with Yuga is it got a bit carried away, got a bit high on its own supply, and just started having loads of NFTs. So the heavy metal and the Legend of the Mara, those are just not, even in NFT world, those are not household names. Those are sort of seen to a degree. Their reputation is, for people who know them, Yuga got a bit greedy and started doing all these sort of NFT collections, and so that's much. If there's not sort of if there's not sort of reputational sort of value in NFT collections, then it's sort of quite hard to do that. So that would be the sort of issue is, if you can find some of these more OG collections, and I think there are probably still some out there from 2018 that probably not being developed anymore. They're still there. I mean, I've got wallets full of old junk. That would be great if someone came and resurrected. And occasionally you do see those sort of things. I mean, I think on the game side, the Spells of Genesis people who were very, very early into the space, running on a Bitcoin sort of base blockchain. I think some of their cards did get collected as for sort of historic value, and started going for quite decent prices because they had just been so early. But people weren't rebuilding games based on that. They were just crypto collectors in the space were collecting them for those sort of collectible reasons. So you have to sort of think what the functionality is.
Yeah, it's a bit like those like manga collectors, that sort of thing. Sorry, about 30 years later, and suddenly they can go on eBay and sell it for however they've had in a drawer somewhere for ages. Sort of thing. Anyway, you looked into the MMOG platform Scape from Swedish developer Ringtail Interactive this week, in light of them announcing that their founding Citizen NFTs had minted out. So again, sort of an example of an NFT project that did well in a time of very sort of dry NFT trading, you would say.
Well, I mean, I think they were free.
All right. Okay.
I think there's a free mint, and the prices are not anything to talk about. I mean, again, it's sort of good that, again, it's sort of slightly mysterious in what they're up to and how they're being funded. So, I mean, it is good, I think, that sort of new companies are coming into the space. I guess that would be my sort of conclusion from that point of view. It's a bit weird that sort of, no one had ever heard of them. When I say no, probably some people had, but in general, we hadn't heard of them, and we hear of most things. And even now, they're not. It doesn't seem to be particularly active. It's quite an ambitious project. So you'd expect, maybe this, the CEO would be popping up in spaces or interviews, or they have ambitions to do, like a Roblox or sort of sandbox to a degree.
And like many other developers, they're building their own tech and everything, aren't they? The Leam.
I mean, they started out. It seems like they started out as a sort of tech server company, and they think they're very innovative in that space. I think the problem often is with these tech-based companies is they come up with something really maybe interesting, but they can't ever persuade anyone else to use it. And that's really you build a platform by having network effects and getting other people to use it. And if you're not out there banging the drum and telling everyone how great you are for years and years and years, it doesn't happen. So it's good they're coming. I think they probably need to be a bit more vocal. I mean, I don't quite know what their roadmap is for launching, so we sort of wait and see how they get on with that.
You look a little bit like the sun is hitting you there, so I can't really see your cap, but no. I can tell it's a Planet Mojo cap. Do you want to tell us why you're wearing that, John? yeah,
Planet Mojo. So talk about team still building. They're actually on season 7. Mojo Melee's on season 7. I think I've played them all. I think I had all the battle passes. So maybe another battle pass for me to get. So we're into autumn now. So this one's called Leaves of Legend. So it's a sort of autumnal feel coming in, and they got some Halloween stuff coming. As ever, new battle pass, new spell stones, which is sort of the active sort of spells you put on the battlefield. returning hero, Rackmore Vortum. I don't really use him. He's a vulture, but he spawns these little skeletons, sort of quite nice. So new skins. Yeah. So yeah, it's good. Good to see them just sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, good to see just teams sort of building and continuing. So.
Yeah, and I think they're quite excited. They've moved to base, and
yes, that's true.
Yeah, got the Mojo token live on base, and so kind of a new chapter starting for them, really.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Treasure cap because Treasure announced this week they turned 3. So, hey, happy birthday, Treasure. And before we finish off, I'd just like to highlight the Pocket Gamer Connect conference is coming to Helsinki on the 1st to 2nd of October with some blockchain gaming in it. We have Gamies. She isn't CEO anymore. She is
chairman.
Fazina Reza will be there talking about launching Web3 games on Ton and lots more regarding Telegram and Ton and how that company is leveraging the platform. And Åke André from Crypto Games, which is working on, it's not Crystals of Naramund anymore, it's called Crystal Fall. He will basically dive into the problems of building without proper regulations, and now that the European Union has got proper crypto regulations in place, how that will sort of help Web3 game developers, and talk about his sort of learnings, difficulties, and lessons from building Crystal Fall for a couple of years. So anyway, with that, we're going to end. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.